The Indiana Fever front office cannot catch a break.
The Fever have done it again. And if you guys don't know, they've done the survey.
Once more, the Indiana Fever have succeeded.
Fans are enraged this time.
The Indiana Fever front office is in serious trouble, man, yet again.
There are significant concerns about whether the front office is attempting to marginalize Caitlin Clark in light of a recent poll that was distributed.
There is only one truth, and the truth of the matter is that Caitlin Clark is this phenomenon that changed the entire landscape.
Despite all that she has done for the franchise. Please leave a 100% positive remark if you support Caitlin Clark before we get into this horrific tale.
Survey was basically the Indiana Fever sent it out to fans and they asked them a whole bunch of questions. They asked them a whole bunch of questions and it was all about like, would you be fans of the team? And what happens if we did this? Like, why would you stop being fans of the Fever? And why did you become fans of the Fever? But a lot of the questions were, why did you become fans of the Fever? Caitlin Clark.
It all boils down to their fan survey, which the Indiana Fever front office has managed to incite yet again. It appeared to be a harmless marketing questionnaire at first glance.
When you think of the WNBA, who are the first three players that come to mind? Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, Angel Reese. You mentioned you have at least heard the names of the following WNBA players. Which WNBA team does each player belong to? If you don't know the answer, click I don't know. What is going on?
However, as fans got to work, the queries caused individuals to become enraged and raise eyebrows. Rather than emphasizing Caitlin Clark.
See, when they start doing stuff like this, they're up to something. They're up to something, bro. I ain't lying. The front office is up to something, and now y'all finna have people looking at y'all funny again, bro. It is what it is. Y'all finna have people looking at y'all funny again.
Fans were already doubting the Fever's devotion to Caitlin Clark based on the survey, but when you zoom out to see how the front office is really running, the situation appears considerably worse.
Say Fever Basketball LLC. Y'all see, this is the Fever right here. I kind of highlighted that for you. That is the Fever. How come I'm not seeing no scouts, bro? Or the scouting department? Do they even have a scouting department?
This organization is displaying signals of total chaos behind the scenes. First of all, rumors indicated that the Fever do not even have a competent scouting department, despite earning millions from Caitlin's jersey sales, sold-out games, and national exposure.
It seems as if the overseas scouting department, some YouTube highlights, some clips, and a couple phone calls with a person on the other end saying, trust me, bro, trust me.
They are using YouTube videos, phone conversations, and assistant coaches' personal connections to assess athletes abroad rather than hiring experts to assemble the best roster around Caitlin. A professional franchise shouldn't be operated that way.
They're the one that unveiled a $78 million practice facility. I didn't know about it. They told me. They're the one that came out with the Now You Know camp. It's them. So God forbid some fans are like, wait, you guys told us this, and you're operating like you just started business yesterday?
Things worsen. The team boasts a brand new $78 million practice facility and publicly positions itself as the WNBA's best.
And I think the way she plays and the way she's entertained brought so many guys over, whether they were men's college basketball fans or NBA fans or whatever the case, which is something that the WNBA and a lot of women's sports hadn't done before. And I think that's an under-discussed aspect of why Caitlin Clark is so popular.
However, when it comes to actually working to help Caitlin Clark and make the most of her championship window, they're managing things like a little business that is struggling to stay afloat.
I think it's important for people to hear your background and context for people who don't know, and that's on the women's sports side of things. But then there's another aspect that you touch on in the book and that I think has not been discussed as much as to the explosion of Caitlin Clark's popularity, and that's dudes. You know, Caitlin Clark, everybody goes like white and straight and all these other carnival barker talking points, but I've always thought her popularity, and with anything, there's a pie chart.
The hypocrisy is evident to fans. Although the Fever are more than willing to capitalize on Caitlin's celebrity, their current strategy betrays a lack of genuine commitment to developing around her. Furthermore, surveys that minimize her contribution to a front office that appears unprepared for the major stage.
Last year, in their defense last year, a load of questions were about Caitlin Clark being like, did Caitlin Clark bring you in, essentially? Would you stay if Caitlin's gone and all this stuff? Now it's like, what is the other reason? 97% is other. Caitlin Clark got drafted by the Indiana Fever.
Many others think the Fever are squandering a once-in-a-generation chance. The fans' message is straightforward. Caitlin is worthy of a significant franchise. The Fever don't deserve her if they are unable to step up. The response to this survey was immediate.
They're not wrong. At this point in time, like, A'ja Wilson's gotta, like, as good as A'ja's been in a few games, A'ja's gotta go get it back.
Fans of the Fever didn't ignore it. They resisted forcefully.
Why?
Because they are fully aware of the reasons why the stands are crowded, why jerseys are selling out, and why whenever the Fever play, national TV ratings soar. Caitlin Clark is the reason behind it all.
A lot of these people that like be naming these players, they been watching this lame ass league, bro. Ain't nobody been looking at this league, bro. I'm gonna be honest, bro.
The front office was criticized by fans for acting differently. There was only one message that kept appearing. I leave if Caitlin does. I follow Caitlin wherever she goes. That is a warning, not merely a statement.
Once you go up to 97 like Caitlin Clark was down last season, it's hard to go down. It's hard to go down. But yeah, it is a funny one. Everything is complaining about Caitlin Clark's rating when
one player propelled the Fever from near obscurity to must-watch basketball, and her devoted fan following opposes the management's attempts to minimize her significance.
they average like 3,000 seats to like 3,000 fans to 16,000 selling out every game last year.
The figures are honest. Just 3,000 people attended the Indiana Fever games prior to Caitlin. Since she joined the team, they have become one of the most popular sports ticket destinations, selling out arenas all across the nation and drawing crowds of 16,000 and more.
Caitlin Clark is this phenomenon that changed the entire landscape, sort of the sun that the WNBA has now orbited around as a solar system.
Overnight, the Fever went from being a forgettable franchise to the WNBA's most recognizable team. Furthermore, it wasn't due to astute branding or a marketing study. It was the effect of Caitlin Clark. It's simple.
When you think of WNBA, who are the first three players to come to your mind? There is no three. There's just one. Caitlin. Like, bro, like what? I don't know, bro.
However, she was never specifically addressed in the survey. Rather, it prompted supporters to name 3 WNBA players that immediately sprang to mind. However, the majority of supporters gave the same response. Just Caitlin. There is no other name that evokes such fervor, focus, and cultural influence.
Why would you not be happy to have those people watching your sport? We've seen the numbers of the All-Star voting, right? A'ja Wilson, well under 100,000 2 years ago. Now Caitlin Clark is getting all the votes, of course, and she's getting them with, Leah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell and others.
Supporters viewed this as more than just an error. It seemed insulting. The Fever front office wasn't merely disregarding the obvious when they didn't include Caitlin's name. The implication was that they could establish this brand without her. The supporters, however, don't believe it. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are clearly equal. There would be no performance without her.
Y'all want more money. So it looks like this is a WNBA thing. This is a whole league thing. Now that leads us into our next story.
The Fever's rise from an average of 3,000 spectators per night to over 16,000 sold-out arenas can be attributed to this. Oddly, the study refrained from mentioning her name directly. Why did you become a Fever fan? And what would make you stop being a fan? Were among the questions posed to fans.
What was the origin of your fandom for the Fever? Just like 97% of Indiana Fever fans, Caitlin Clark joins the team. They average like 3,000 seats to like 3,000 fans to 16,000 selling out every game.
The overwhelming truth is straightforward. It is thanks to Caitlin Clark that about 97% of Fever fans are present. However, it appeared that the survey skirted that fact. The survey's questions regarding other WNBA clubs, such as the Liberty, Aces, and Storm, were even more perplexing.
It said the Fever are sending fan surveys for marketing research again. Meanwhile, they have Stephanie White and Brianna January in the dark closet with 3G Wi-Fi and YouTube with ads for scouting.
The Fever seemed to be trying to draw attention away from their own celebrity. Fans were even asked if they knew any lacrosse teams at one point, which made many question whether the front management was being sincere. The part that asked followers where their Fever fandom started was the most offensive.
People can say, look at all these fans.
Walk down the aisle of the onto the terrace of the concourse. You'll see the next unobstructed stairway down and exit where you'll be guided across the street to a safe location. Elevators and escalators will not be in operation during the evacuation. Please follow.
Now, one of the coolest things I can say, I had the pleasure of viewing this live in Iowa. That is the Caitlin Clark effect.
Among the choices were, I saw them on TV. Either they are my local team, or I read news articles. The obvious choice, however, was conspicuously lacking. Clark, Caitlin. The surveys seem to be trying to remove her from consideration.
Say Fever Basketball LLC. Y'all see, this is the Fever right here. I kind of highlighted that for you. That is the Fever. How come I'm not seeing no scouts, bro? Or the scouting department? Do they even have a scouting department?
Even if there wouldn't be any of these record-breaking crowds or enormous retail sales without Caitlin, this was more than just a badly drafted survey. It seemed like the Fever was attempting to demonstrate that the franchise could function independently of Caitlin. And that felt like a straight slap in the face for the fans who are aware of the reality.
I think it's important for people to hear your background and context for people who don't know, and that's on the women's sports side of things. But then there's another aspect that you touch on in the book, and that I think has not been discussed as much as to the explosion of Caitlin Clark's popularity, and that's dudes. You know, Caitlin Clark, if everybody goes like white and straight and all these other carnival barker talking points, but I've always thought her popularity, and with anything, there's a pie chart.
Ultimately, this fan survey merely validated the fears that many had already expressed. Although the Indiana Fever front office is making an effort to demonstrate that they can function without Caitlin Clark, the facts cannot be denied. This team breaks attendance records, sells out venues, and even maintains its relevance in national discourse because of her. The Fever risk would quickly return to obscurity without Caitlin. They have the most promising future the franchise has ever seen with her. The question now is whether the front desk will continue to take her for granted, or will they eventually respect that and work around her? What are your thoughts? Should Caitlin Clark expect this franchise to perform better? Tell me about your opinions below, and don't forget to give Caitlin your full support.